welcome to the Cinebums podcast. As always, it is me, John, here, joined by the lovely Luke Mueller. Hello, Luke.
Hello. The world stopped for me this week when the biggest thing probably ever happened, and the Joe Rogan Experience had on the Sandman.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, yeah,
I had to, that was like the biggest thing probably to happen in my life in my 30 years. Um it's early August, mid-August, almost end of summer, and uh it's not, just to remind people, it can't be a more perfect time than to watch Grown Ups. Um,
yeah.
no need to go into that film. We've said everything there is to say, but this is Grown Ups season, and Joe Rogan and the boys in Austin like kind of knew that and thought it was a good time of year to have the great Adam Sandler on. Um, of course, though, I will say I listened to the almost the entire. Did you listen to it at all, John?
No, I've been meaning to though. Yeah,
Yeah, I listened to almost the entire thing, and as usual, when Joe Rogan has a guest on that I really like, I get very annoyed because Joe talks more than the guest, and Joe will talk about like martial arts or something like that, and he's like talking Adam Sandler's ear off about martial arts, and I'm just like. It's like what and
who
and
cares?
the Sandman's just being like super nice because he's on his podcast. He's going like, yeah, that's crazy, buddy, and like, yeah, and it always happens with Joe Rogan when he has someone who's like
Yeah,
really nice and I like on, and Joe will just go on these rants, and it's like, dude, what kind of interviewer are you, man? Like, you have the Sandler on, you've never had him on. He has a more interesting life than you, like like you've never had I mean,
he just sits in that podcast studio and then goes to his comedy club, and then I mean that's it. That's
yeah,
like
everyone knows what like
what's
Joe Rogan's like life is, and
yeah, we
like
can't get
let's
away from
ask,
it.
there's just so much you can talk to Adam Sandler about, I feel, and don't get me wrong, it's still enjoyable episode, but I was like kind of like, I don't know, I felt bad for the Sandman, that
Yeah.
he was taken advantage of because yeah, to me, the Sandman is a much bigger deal than this Joe Rogan, who some people would disagree, but those people are also, to me, probably a little off as people. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Joe Rogan is like the new Johnny Carson. It's like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
comics want to get like they're like, hey Luke, I got the Tonight Show. Like that was a big thing. Now they're like,
yeah.
I got on Rogan and
I
yeah,
mean,
now
in
he's
a
getting
way, it's like bigger than Carson. It's like bigger than Carson. Like it's like has there's never really been anything like it to exist. It's one of the most insane things to ever exist. And because he has, there's no guest that Joe Rogan can have on his podcast. And you're like, oh, this guy's too big. No, because he's done everybody to where you
yeah.
think they'd be too big. And so I'm not surprised that Sandler's on there at all. And I think that's why people go on, is just because they're like, oh, I'll do that. It's such a huge podcast. Like,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
the biggest one. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, what is so interesting about Joe Rogan? Why did people latch onto him? It's just like the fear factor guy. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like I feel like when you just have that much confidence and you're like intimidating to some guys that really want you to like them, then it's just I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's the mix of, it's a number of things. It's a number of factors. It's the comedian aspect. It's the it's the stoner dude interested in the bigger, grander nature of life. It's like he's too many niches rolled into one guy to not appeal to a lot of people because on top of that, you could say to the bro who wishes he was an intellectual that he is an intellectual to those people, and he that and he's able to simultaneously talk about sports mechanics, um mind-bending intellectual conversations, and also politics, and also the biggest and probably like most off-putting to like people like say like me and you who complain about that is his agenda of anti the PC movement is it's a very, if you're hitting that bar, it's an easy bar to hit because there's a lot of people who agree with that. They hate they dislike the PC movement, so it's easy to like appeal if you just have that agenda as well. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think it's like it's a number of things. I think is like, and I think there's a lot of things that are objectively respectable about him as well. And then there's a lot that you're like, um, that'll kind of like make you a little peeved at the same time. So there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, there's just like a certain type of guy that is really heavily influenced by him. And it's just, yeah, it's fascinating to me. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. We might have talked about this on the podcast before, but I had people I worked with who would just like start going on this rant. And I'm like, dude, you just like listened to Joe Rogan last night after work and smoked like a bowl. I'm like,
Yeah.
you unoriginal fuck.
It's
Like,
like, oh, I also saw that Joe Rogan clip. Yeah, that's
right.
it's funny
Yeah.
when you hear someone say something that it's like, I saw that on the internet a couple days ago too. Yeah, and I you didn't
Yeah.
just come up with that. Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, I just
And
where I work too, I get a lot of my coworkers are big into like the Joe Rogan and Kill Tony stuff, and it's just like so
yeah.
exhausting. I don't know, it's just like, yeah.
Like I'm like I'll be anti him at times, but I'll also like defend him at times too, because there's like a couple of things. Like Neil Brennan has like a joke where he's like defending Joe Rogan, and he's like, and it's kind of basically saying that like, because there's a lot of ideology that gets developed from people who listen to his podcast. Um, but it is also like, why are people listening to why are people like framing their mindset and all their beliefs off of like this comic, he's like a
Yeah.
silly comic who like smokes weed, and I think even during Joe Rogan's Netflix special he says this. He's like, he's like, people are always getting pissed at me, but he's like, but why are you guys listening to me? you know
Yeah. Yeah.
um so that like, which I agree with that, but I also think there is an awareness of like, um you have such a big following. When you have that big of a following, you need to maybe develop a bit of responsibility, social responsibility. When you have one of the biggest followings ever,
Yeah.
and it's not really just a comedy podcast anymore. At times,
Yeah.
when you have like the richest man in the world on there, and he's had Bernie Sanders on there, like, it's not just a comedy podcast anymore.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that. So yeah, it's funny how that stupid podcast is a very complicated topic
Yeah, it
and
really
issue.
is. Yeah.
They're like, there's a difference between an opinion and a bid, and Joe
Yeah.
Rogan is giving opinions. He's not doing bids. So I think
Yeah.
that's the big difference. And I will also say, just this is a personal opinion. During his last Netflix special, I don't think he's really doing bids either, because that is like the clunk. It's not even like whether I agree with the the ideas he's presenting. It's just from a uh like a technical standpoint of evaluating stand up, just from a craftsmanship perspective. I could it was so poorly done. And actually on the Sandler episode, like Sandler's like, "Wow, buddy, you put together that hour," he's like,
You did
how'd you
it.
he's like, "How'd you do that?" Like how'd you put together an hour like that? And Joe's talking about all the work he did to put together the hour and how he did it so many times at his club or something like that. And I'm like listening to him, like, it really doesn't show, man. It really does not, because it's really not
Yeah.
good. There are many times where I'm watching it, I'm like, this guy is just he's like, I don't even think he's doing that well. Like, objectively. It's not about like the bids or the ideas. I'm just like I was watching the special. I'm like, I don't think he's doing that well. And I think it's partly because he is doing so many things in his life that he can't really hone an hour. I think, yeah, to me, uh,
Yeah.
like I think his previous specials, it shows that maybe he was really focusing on stand up, but I'm watching this special and I'm just like, he's like stumbling over these bids. They're not really connecting. He's just kind of screaming like he's Sam Kennison. He's doing the fucking shit with the eyebrows because he thinks people like
Mhm.
that's his like strategy for stand up is like, oh, do the shit with the eyebrows that he only does on stage. Yeah, just thought I was like, this is brutal. And I was like, I was like rooting for him too to do well. Like, despite all these like things I have, like, just, occasional quarrels I have with the man, like, I do root for him as a person. And I think a lot of the things he does are good, but then he'll do some things like talk about, martial arts with the Sandman or do this
Yeah.
Netflix special where it's just like, really bad, not that great. I'm like, oh, this guy, man.
Do you know the show Red Bar at
No.
all? Yeah, you should look up some clips sometime. But it's this guy. He's from Chicago, but he does like a show where he kind of shits on a lot of like comedians, and it's pretty funny. He has this like shtick. He's kind of like in character, but also like genuinely dissecting like comedians on podcasts or their like specials,
Mhm.
and there's
Yeah.
just like good. He's like shown some good compilations of like Joe Rogan doing a podcast with another comedian, but like the other comedian is like doing bits and like being a comedian and being funny, but he takes himself too serious and he's like not catching these like jokes that there's one specifically with like Harlan Williams where Harlan Williams is just like fucking with him and like joking around this whole time, but Joe thinks he's being serious, and
Hmm.
Joe kind of keeps trying to like bring it back to like some scientific thing that or conspiracy
Yeah,
theory that
yeah.
he just like learned
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Harlan
Right,
Williams
right,
just
right.
clearly doesn't give a shit about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's just funny to like look at to like really observe Joe Rogan as like a
Yeah.
as just like a person and how he interacts with other people who don't
Right.
really think the way that he does, because I don't feel like
Exactly, yeah. And you're watching them like say Adam Sandler, who's just a nice guy, and so he's just going with it, you know?
yeah
I remember when I was listening to Kevin Smith on Joe Rogan, and he's Joe Rogan's like talking about like I don't know the grander meaning of what Donald Trump being president is, and Kevin Smith is not the guy to talk to about that at all. The guy who's a comic book nerd and hosts a show called he's hosted a show called Fat Man on Batman, and Kevin Smith's even saying like we got to get political, man. And but Joe doesn't stop. Anyways, I guess you want to like go through the agenda for
yeah
the day. I
so
see your cursor. So I see your cursor on it. So I know that you're you're gearing
I
up
like
for it.
I feel like you're like coaching me
I'm
to
like
like get
directing you to do
yeah
it. Yeah.
um Yes. Okay. What's my line? Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll write your
Write me a
monologue.
script next time so I know what to
The
say.
first my first gig, yeah, he's like, when did you get started, Luke? My first gig was writing, I was ghostwriting for John Nurin on the
Yeah.
Cinebums podcast.
Like I knew that writing was too good for John to have done that himself.
John could never come up with John could come up with his own stuff. So
He couldn't read an agenda if his life
yeah,
depended on
yeah.
it.
Even if it was written down for him, John couldn't read the agenda.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, we have a great show
We have a great show for you
for you
guys today.
today. Yeah. Wow. We got some great things coming up. Yeah. Hope you're liking this new iteration of the Cinebums podcast. We got a lot of great things coming your way. Um, yeah, everyone's been talking about Wolverine and Deadpool, this is going to come out a little bit later, but we're still thinking about it because, man, we
Because
can't
we
get
didn't
away
see it, so we're
because
we're
we
kind
didn't
of
see it.
wondering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're wondering what everybody's talking about it for. Uh, but yeah, we've kind of had enough of Ryan Reynolds, so we'll
Hmm.
get more into that later.
Hmm.
Then also Luke had a you had a short premiere at the LA Shorts Festival.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll
Gonna get to
talk
hear all
about
about
that
that.
experience. I think we've had a number of like recounts of film festivals experiences on this podcast, but this is the
Yeah.
first one where um I was honored at it.
You
So
were on
it's
the red carpet instead of
I was
just
on the red
watching it.
carpet.
Yeah.
Yep. And of course, that's when the party just got started there. I'll have a full recount of that night. Yeah.
You're still seeing like flashing lights from all the camera
I'm
flashes
still
as you
coming down
blink.
from all the cocaine that I did at the
Yeah.
LA Shorts
In the
Fest.
bathroom at the LA Shorts Fest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both Luke and I also had movie benders, two different movie
Yeah.
benders. I finally got COVID.
Yep.
So
And mine's just a
good for
normal,
me.
normal movie bender, but I will say that I changed up my I recently had a revelation in my like drinking habits for these movie benders.
Oh.
So stay tuned for what I what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then this is also this is old, but I know that like this movie was very well liked. Um the movie Twister came out. So we're gonna talk about that and also why I was a little disappointed in the movie. Uh yeah.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah,
And
well, I'm gonna be looking forward to that. Yeah.
and also to close this off, there's a particular scene in Richard Linklater's Boyhood that I wanted to talk to John about because I watched this scene and I immediately thought of you. So that's what we'll
Wow.
close off with.
Wow. I'm honored. Yeah. I'm honored that you thought of me. In any way. Yeah.
Doesn't happen often, but when it does, I do think of the
Yeah.
Cinebums.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
That was good. I like the way you said well, we got a great show for you guys say like like it's SNL or something.
We've got a great show for you today.
Yeah,
Luke is
yeah,
here.
yeah. Eric B and Rakim are here.
Yeah. Yeah, to say some really obscure musical
So
guests that,
stick around.
yeah, stick around. Yeah,
All
that's funny.
right.
Maybe we should start having a monologue at the beginning.
Well, yeah, the
Um,
Joe Rogan thing was kind of like the monologue, and then
yeah,
we have a great show for you guys. And what if we
that was our
got
cold
like,
open.
what if we got like, amateur like musicians to like perform? We
Yeah,
set them up in the Zoom, and there's a third one. Um,
yeah, I kind of like that.
yeah, that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like I find like a rapper who just like like a hungry rapper out of like
SoundCloud
Atlanta who I'm
rapper. Yeah.
connected with, who's just like he raps a cappella, and we're just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
all
I
right.
like that. Yeah.
So I guess we're starting off with this Ryan Reynolds thing.
I have an announcement, I guess, or I need to call a meeting for anyone out
Yeah.
there
Hmm.
for a very serious issue. And this also ties into the latest M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Trap, or Trap. It's just called Trap, um, which I'll tell you why that ties in later. But does anyone else?
Oh man, it's a trap he's getting us
I'm
into.
about to trap you.
This whole thing's a trap.
Okay, well, Deadpool and Wolverine came out this
Hmm.
summer. It's got a lot of buzz. A lot of people went to see it. Neither of us have seen it. But leading up to it, we see a ton of press for Ryan Reynolds, of
Yeah. Hmm.
course, a lot of press for Ryan Reynolds. But it didn't seem that different because you know what happened before this movie was coming out? Ryan Reynolds everywhere still.
Yeah.
What's happened after it's out? Ryan Reynolds. He's on commercials. He's t telling us about Mint Mobile. He's got a TV show where because he bought a soccer team
Yeah.
in Wales, and now he's got
Yeah.
to shove that down our throats. And as someone as as someone
These
who would,
rich, when rich people are sticking it to us,
yeah, it's like,
and then
oh my God, we get
they'll get
it.
the streaming revenue from filming him buying the football club with Rob McElhenney. So
Yeah. Yeah, and now it's these guys. They're so funny and nice and like what they're so just witty and goofy and they do fun things. Let's just we just have to always constantly see these guys, and
yeah.
I don't buy any of it. I'm not I'm not buying into this that we're supposed to
You're
like
not
this
here for
guy.
it.
I am not here for it. As someone who likes both movies and soccer, I can't get away
Mhm.
from him. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
And YouTube,
Actually,
he's everywhere.
there's like a couple posters on Ventura Boulevard. Like I just moved, but right by where I used to live, of a giant like poster of these two guys like kind of like clapping at their football club. And there was a point where I was passing by these posters every day, and while I'm like in the heat, kind of stuck in traffic, um, you know, my car's dirty. I haven't showered. Those are all my fault, but still, I'm looking at this poster and I'm like, fuck these guys, man. Just
uh,
rubbing rubbing their six.
th-
I don't get like who wants to really watch that. Like who
yeah,
sees that and calls that, oh man, that's something I need to see. Uh like I don't have any problem with them buying that football club, but I think like the behind the scenes of them owning it isn't like such a fun idea for a show, I guess.
yeah. It's like I don't know. To me, it's not these people in Europe. They take their football clubs so seriously, and they get when there's like an owner, like a rich owner that comes from a different country that comes and like buys the team, people generally have like a bad feeling about that because they're like, oh, they don't actually care about, they just care about making more money and they don't care about the actual like the city and the people and all they care about is using this to as an investment. And and but for some reason, that because Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney are like these funny guys on, in movies and TV, then it's like, oh, this is great. This is so cool and fun. But it's like they're just rich guys
Yeah,
seeing this as an investment at the end of the day too. You just
exactly.
happen to know who they are. They're not wearing suits and some just generic businessmen.
Yeah.
Um,
They're just kind of rich bros, and they both like deserve their success, for sure. and have done a lot of things that I've liked, but I don't really like them together that much either. I
Mhm.
think their friendship is like kind of showy.
Yeah, everything just feels like it's for the brand, for
Yeah,
the Ryan Reynolds brand.
yeah.
And I just feel like we get it at this point, and like he's kind of does the same, like he's never sincere, you can never tell when is he always just like being this character where he's like sarcastic all the time and
Yeah,
uh
I don't even totally get it personally.
yeah.
It's like this weird neurotic thing coming from a very good-looking, successful man. Um, I don't get it. I don't get what it is. He's like kind of a comedian, but he didn't come up through comedy at all, and he's like he's like so mainstream. Um, I was watching the one of the press things I watched was like a clip of him on he's like doing a cooking thing with like Hugh
Hmm.
Jackman and Gordon Ramsay.
Mm.
And Ryan Reynolds is kind of being like Gordon Ramsay's doing his thing, which is, always for me, it's always for me a 10 out of 10. Is Gordon Ramsay just like his whole shtick, his whole routine is just perfection for me. And then Ryan Reynolds is doing like being the funny guy while
Mm.
they're like trying to cook scrambled eggs or whatever, or they're like stirring stuff, and he's saying all these kind of weird neurotic things. And I don't really get it. And like they're all laughing, they're like both like laughing at it, partly because it's the show and he is going, he's making jokes, but I don't really get it. And yeah, I don't know how he like wove. I don't know what it's like really commercial mainstream humor that's not very just doesn't have a lot of depth to it.
Yeah.
He just kind of has that like slick voice where he can quickly say these one-liners, jokes things. That's kind of like what he
Yeah.
does, you know?
Yeah. He's like an attractive guy that he's kind of branded himself as like the funny guy too. So then
Yeah.
people just like think that things he says are funnier when really in reality, I'm sure Hugh Jackman is probably when you're just talking to him one on one, Hugh Jackman's probably way funnier. Just
Let's
as
see
a,
them go for it. Yeah, let's see Hugh
yeah,
Jackman's.
yeah.
Let's do
And
like open mic night them
yeah,
against each other, but
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, it's like yeah, it's just like so I just get so like tired of it because yeah, I feel like it's all just like for show. It's just like a show thing
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
like, man, what is this guy like in real like if you really just
Yeah.
would you really just like grab a beer with Ryan Reynolds and like talk to him? I feel like he would be insufferable to be
Yeah, if
around.
he's actually always like that.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, we get it. Like, stop being, there's always, it almost seems like an insecurity at the end of the day, too. Like, he's got to be the funny guy because he doesn't know how to, you know, act any other way. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and he's kind of like he acts weird. He acts weird, but he's not really like he's such a weird guy, but he's not really a
Yeah,
weird guy. He's
yeah. And I get the same thing with Blake Lively, his wife, who it's like, oh, they're like couple goals, everyone's all about them because they're
yeah,
so
yeah.
funny and whatever. And I feel like it's all a ruse. So so this is all leading up to we are going to stage a coup or insurrection, if you will, to overthrow Ryan Reynolds. All right. So that is why I have called you all here today to join us in this
We're calling
movement.
it January 7th.
Yeah. Yes, January 7th. It's a new dawn. Yeah. It's and
We're doing it for real comedians out there.
yeah, we are overthrowing Ryan Reynolds. And I have an idea, which is this is where Trap, the Shama, M. Night Shyamalan gets partial credit for this, and I hope he joins our movement because he gave me this idea. Because in Trap, if you haven't seen it, it's they stage this whole concert as a trap to catch this serial killer in Philadelphia, and who is, you know, Josh Hartnett. It's not a spoiler, it's in the trailer, but Josh Hartnett plays a serial killer who they trap at this concert that he takes his daughter to. And that was their way to like lure him in. So it gave me the idea of how can we set up a similar trap type thing to get Ryan Reynolds and overthrow him and replace, and this is all to replace him with someone else. You know, we're gonna have a new guy, and guy is
Yeah.
that means girl, guy, non-binary. It doesn't have to be a man, but we're gonna replace him with someone. But I thought the perfect way to trap Ryan Reynolds, because he's the funny guy, you know, he loves being the funny guy.
Yeah.
So we're gonna um, you know, get this whole Mark Twain prize event. We're gonna convince him that he's won
Yeah.
the Mark Twain prize for comedy.
Yeah.
We're
That's
gonna
great.
we're gonna set this whole event up at this venue.
And everyone
And
who there who's honoring him is like not comedians at all. It's like
yes,
more MCU people.
yes, it's gonna be Brie Larson and Jeremy Renner and yeah, Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, we're gonna have the MCU there. It's gonna be this whole event, as it's gonna seem like Ryan is getting celebrated for being the funniest guy in the world that he thinks he
Yeah.
is, and so it's the
And
Mark Twain
then
prize.
and then after that he has to the prize of the because he wins the Mark Twain prize, he has to do a show in Vegas for the rest of his days.
Yes.
So he'll be doomed to be there, kind of like Elvis, where he just does a one-man show in Vegas for the
Yes.
rest of his days, and no more movies, no more commercials, no more Deadpool. Just Deadpool Takes Vegas is the new show. Uh,
Yep. And yeah, he's gonna have an ankle bracelet, so we can monitor him, make sure he's not leaving he can't leave this whatever venue we're gonna put him in to do this show, this Deadpool stage show that he's being sequestered to. And yeah, so this is the plan. You know, we're gonna stage this coup to overthrow him. He's gonna think it's all this big real thing, like we're all celebrating him. But in reality, it's all just to get him to go away. And so yeah, this I hope everyone out there will join us in this coup that we're staging. And with that, who should we replace Ryan Reynolds with? You know, who's someone we actually want to see all the time, everywhere, constantly, who we're not going to get sick of, who, maybe we don't see enough of. Let us know who you think is going to be there. Luke, I don't know if you have anybody off the
I
top of your
feel
head
like
who we
I
can
don't know.
nominate.
This isn't really someone we don't see enough of, but I was gonna say like I don't know, someone like Kevin Hart, who is already
I feel like
he's
we already
there.
see Kevin Hart all the time now.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really work. But I would argue that Ryan Reynolds is more beloved than Kevin Hart, maybe by a certain crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Maybe, yeah, we
But
need to
also
get,
Kevin Hart flashes his like wealth a lot too. So
yeah.
I don't really fuck with that totally.
Well, see, maybe if white women need another funny mainstream guy to follow after Ryan Reynolds gets
White
overthrown,
women.
you can follow Kevin Hart then too. If they still need someone that's, more mainstream, who's like a funny
They're like,
guy.
"Oh, never heard of him. I usually get my jokes from my laughs from Ryan Reynolds." So
Yeah. He's my favorite comedian. Yeah. He kills me. Yeah, that's what they'd say. Just yeah, if you need a mainstream guy, Kevin Hart, he's kind of harmless. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not.
I think so.
Yeah.
He
So
actually
that's
won the Mark Twain Prize.
oh,
So
did he?
another reason why it's like he's already getting his shine. But like I kind of like seeing him get the Mark Twain Prize because I feel like the only prestige he gets is like financial compensation. Like he doesn't get, no one says like, oh, Kevin Hart has this really respectable career with all this like artistic integrity. It's like, no, Kevin Hart just kind of is a movie machine and like a content machine, which I feel like it is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see him get honored for just comedy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll throw out some other names I thought of. Some of these are I can't believe I even wrote them down. What was I
Yeah,
thinking?
me too.
Uh,
I'd be down for Colin Farrell that you wrote
Colin
down.
Farrell. Colin
Colin
Farrell's
Farrell's a
one.
good one. I think he's so A24 art house in a way that he's a little too, I don't know. I almost would be like, damn, this would ruin him, but I love seeing him talk always. And I do think he's hilarious, and I would love to see
Yeah.
what his thing would become, you know?
I feel like he's got a good sense of humor that's like he still doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah.
Or with Ryan Reynolds, I think he takes himself too seriously, but he masks it with all the sarcasm and everything.
Yeah,
And
if Colin Farrell was, say, in the MCU all of a sudden, I would probably see that movie. I'd probably be motivated to see it. And if Colin Farrell, say, bought like a part-time share in like, I don't know, the Charlotte Hornets or the OKC Thunder or something like that, I would watch the documentary of that more than I would watch this
yeah,
other him and Rob McElhenney.
yeah, he's just more interesting, way more interesting. Um, yeah, and another one too that I feel like is good if if we want to put a women in his place too. Emma Stone. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like she's just all around likable and who can not like her
Yeah.
and
Emma
she
Stone's a
also
beast.
she's also funny and can be weird
Yeah.
and not take herself too seriously
Very like
too. And
relatable movie star
yes.
too. It
Yeah.
seems like she's one of us.
Yeah, doesn't act like she's above us regular
No.
people, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Though
That's
I
my
feel like
least favorite thing is when people are sticking it to me for not
yeah,
being on their level, you know?
to like a blue collar every man like me, you know?
Yeah. For belittling my life and all the
Yeah.
work I do.
Because
Oh,
I went to the school of hard knocks and I'm not some fancy Hollywood person. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
I feel like those are some two good nominations.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Let us know who else you think. Um, you
Yeah,
know.
I wish I had more
Mhm.
nominations here, but
Sound off in the comments if you
trying to
have
think. I'm
any.
trying to think. Andrew Garfield, I'd like to see more of
Oh,
around.
that's a good one.
And
Yeah.
I think he hasn't done a lot of funny man stuff, but I feel like he could.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he has
Yeah.
been funny, but he doesn't do like the funny man thing a lot. But
No, he does he
he's
doesn't, but
got the range. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like he could.
That's a good one.
I feel like Donald Glover is too private for how talented he is. And I think
Hmm.
that's a choice. But he used to do stand-up comedy and he wrote for 30 Rock and, all that stuff. I feel like I wish he was around. I
Yeah.
think he has like aesthetic standards, which is something that Ryan Reynolds does not have.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. But I feel I wouldn't mind if, say, Donald Glover did more like just in the spotlight comedy things because he's so talented. But I think he just does that also because he wants to make great music and a great TV show and focus on that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a great pick. Yeah. We definitely could use more of him, but I respect his um
the
I don't
privacy.
know. Yeah, I respect that because I feel like he knows what he's doing and he's kind of perfectly got that like we always want to see more of him, but
Yeah.
he just gives us a little bit,
Yeah, he
to
leaves
make
us
us want
wanting
more.
more.
Yeah,
The
that's what.
timing thing.
Yeah, actually he's like the anti Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, because we're like, yeah, we could always use more of him.
He's like Obama.
And Ryan
Um,
Reynolds is like Trump. Yeah, we can't get rid of him. Yeah.
Hannibal Buress, I kind of wish was
Mm.
around more. I don't think he even needs to be doing stand up, or I wish he was just in things, because I like
Yeah.
just think his presence alone is hilarious. And if he was doing commercials with his squinty-eyed thing, I'd be totally okay with it. If he, so yeah, Hannibal Buress.
Yeah, he's another guy that seems to keep it like low key,
Yeah.
which yeah, again, I respect that.
Again,
Yeah.
yeah, in a smart way, as to
Smart
not
way, yeah.
ruin their what they've already done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some great picks. Yeah.
Why not Leo DiCaprio? A guy who hides too much starts to become a Ryan Reynolds type. I mean, just for the entertainment value of what that would be like.
Yeah, that would be something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just him trying to be. I don't think Leo DiCaprio has ever once intentionally tried to be funny. It's always it's always like because the character is um don't get me wrong, Leo DiCaprio is very funny very often, but I think it's always because he's going so deep into the character and is acting
Yeah.
so hard that he's funny.
Yeah, that's someone you can't really there's like a mystique about him still. As
Yeah.
famous as he is, there still
See,
is.
that would ruin it. See,
Yeah,
that's a,
yeah.
like a thing with this topic when I saw it, John, was kind of like I understood it, but I was also like, especially with the list, I was like, that would ruin a lot of these people we like if, they
Maybe.
became in the spotlight like this. Like for instance, like Paul Giamatti, like I kind of like the medium amount that we see of Paul Giamatti.
Yeah. But maybe we don't need to replace him with anyone. Maybe we just need to get him out and
Yeah, yeah.
we just need to take him out.
Maybe that's what this is about.
Actually, you know what? This is helpful to go through because now we've kind of found out what we don't need is we don't need a Ryan Reynolds type of guy out there doing
That's the
this
thing.
stuff.
We don't need it. That's why
We have
he's
these people that are perfect how they are, and he's just not being that, he's
that's what I think makes it so head scratching is like that's why
yeah,
you're wondering when these promos and all this stuff shoved in our face, we're wondering why it exists. I think that's the big
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's the dilemma. So I guess at the end of the day, goal number one
In
is
conclusion,
in conclusion is Ryan Reynolds, we're kicking him to the curb. He's gonna go to Vegas, and then when all these people that think he's so funny and swell, when they go to Vegas, they can see his stage show,
I'm sure there's plenty
and
of people in Vegas who love Ryan Reynolds.
yeah, and then we just won't have to hear from him again. We won't have to see him in commercials. Just if you ever go to Vegas, you can just see like the billboard for his show, and that's all you
Yeah.
see. And then that's
Yeah.
we can live with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just gone too far at this point that we need to do something about it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel like Ryan Reynolds kind of his humor, his Disney-esque quality to him as a person kind of goes with what Vegas is. Like
Yeah.
there's that Bourdain episode where he's like I miss the old Vegas, blah blah blah. And I Sebastian Maniscalco did a special in Vegas where he had a suit on and he was trying to make it like the old Vegas. I feel like Ryan Reynolds and his whole thing fits in with the new Vegas of
Yeah.
the anti Sinatra Dean Martin thing. Um,
Yeah, it
like
totally does. Yeah.
like those old comics who would be in Vegas and it would be how like 50s Woody Allen comedy where it's like so one line based. Like that's what I feel like Vegas used to be. And I feel like Ryan Reynolds is going against the original craftsmanship. I think he overlooked the original craftsmanship of comedy to just jump to whatever the hell he's doing now, which really should just be, it should not be on in cinemas, it should be uh like on YouTube, maybe in vlogs or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Kind of
Yeah.
like what on our level is what
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds should
Yeah. You
be.
should be down by us. Okay. Yeah.
He should be a guest. He should be a co-host of the Cinebums, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
if it's in that frame, we'd be like laughing our ass off at Ryan
Yeah. Maybe
Reynolds.
maybe he'd be great in that scenario, you know? Maybe it's just maybe we're just jealous that he's not with us on this show, you know,
Yeah.
where he should be. Yeah. But that is,
It's
yeah.
like, hello and welcome to the Cinebums
Yeah.
podcast.
And then it's a podcast, but it's also a TV show because it's on the internet and it's a video and it's
I don't
yeah, he
really
just
know what this is.
yeah, what even is this? Yeah, it's yeah. Well,
So
Ryan will
you had a movie bender, John. Tell us about your movie bender.
yeah. Oh my God, yeah. That yeah, that'll be the day when he joins us on the Cinebumps. Where he belongs, probably. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that is it. That's the plan. That's we're gonna
Yeah.
we'll send out the fake invites for the Mark Twain Prize soon. So look out in your mailbox for those, and then we'll get to work on this insurrection of Ryan Reynolds. Yeah.
We'll get to work.
Yeah. January 7th, 2025. Forgot what year it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
There
like
we go.
right after hopefully Kamala wins.
Yeah. Kamabla. Yeah.
Is
Whatever.
it yeah, come is it Kamala? Is it Camilla? Is she
Make up your
is
mind.
is she
Is
black? Is she white? Nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah, she's just such a mystery. Yeah.
I'm so sick of this. She's lying to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. One day her name is Kamala, one day it's Kamala. You know, she's just got to pick one because, yeah, we just can't have a president where we don't know how to,
Pronounce
pronounce
their
their name.
name.
Yeah.
All
Yeah. All
right,
right. Well,
so
we can move on now. We can move on from Ryan Reynolds.
so this podcast has origins of film festivals, mainly in the Denver area. Um, we've had multiple reports of being there, and so both of us are seasoned film festival attendants. We know the vibe, right?
Mm, yeah.
Um, like for instance, wasn't the Denver one like the main area, like at a Regal? Was that where
No.
we were at? No. What
Uh,
what what theater was that? Was that
oh, well, we did. So the main, like, they go to the opera house for like the
so
red
so maybe not that one, but
carpet. And
like
like,
there's like a second.
we went to, I think, yes, I actually think that was a Regal when we went to Jan Pollock. That was in
Yeah,
downtown Denver. That was a
right.
Regal on 16th Street Mall. Yeah, yeah.
I remember like kind of being at that theater the most during the
Hmm.
festival. Um yeah, and I remember that area it was in. It was kind of like a yard house down there. It's like
Yep.
kind of similar like LA. We have a lot of those types of places. We call them gallerias. Um and this was also at a Regal, which is why I bring it up. Actually, and it was a Regal down the street from the crypto arena. So
Oh.
if anything can tell you that I made it, it was that. And
Working
this
in the same
actually,
places as LeBron, you know? Yeah.
I went to this film festival and I was just like, Kobe, right? With the Kobe at the buzzer. And I'll say this is a milestone for me before, like, while I preface this whole recount, this is a milestone because I have never had a film that I had, in which I was part of the creative process of writing it, being a festival or anything I wrote play at a festival on the big screen. Um, so this was cool. It was a milestone, and I wrote it with a buddy from college, actually Ian, who was on our Family Guy episode, uh, and Antonio, who was on our couple of our episodes, I think.
Yeah, he's been on a few.
He's been on a couple, I believe, Inherent Vice and Scores and Soundtracks. He helped direct it. So, and going further with that, Felix Christensen, who was on our Steve Jobs versus Jobs episode, edited it. So it's like a bunch of the Cinebums guests and crew was a part of this project.
The
Um,
Cinebums cinematic universe.
yes,
Yeah.
as far, yeah, exactly. And so, um, you have an idea of who had a hand in this project, and I'm proud of how it turned out, for sure too. And I actually wrote it like years ago. So that was like I think a first thing that felt bizarre about attending a film like at a festival is that like I felt like so removed from it at this point
Hmm.
personally. So that was like the first part of it that made this kind of a weird experience. Um, because on top of that, it just was a weird experience. Um, for all of us. Um, and for instance, I like kind of I opened up to John before we started recording, because I didn't want to like open up to John at the beginning of recording about everything that I have currently going on in my personal life, because that would be a bad vibe starter. I think the Joe Rogan, Adam Sandler monologue was a way better opener. Um, than what I would than if I just ranted about my personal life. But I told John that especially this summer has been really shitty for me. And I was kind of in the thick of it also before going to the LA Shorts Film Festival, and was really just looking to go to this film festival as a way of getting out of the house, right? And I was not looking for anything more than that. And I was kind of just in a weird headspace as I'm going to this thing, and wasn't really expecting much other than to go and watch the short and see my friends. And then I get there, and it's this kind of like it's not much, okay? It's not much, but they do try to create this whole thing. Like where there's all these posters of the of all these films that are playing at the festival. There's this red carpet where there are a lot of flashing lights going on. Like kind of, like not like when you enter, but a red carpet off to the side from the snack bar, you know, like that sort of thing. And it all feels very phony. Just very phony because they're trying to give you the experience like you really accomplished something by getting to this film festival that no one is really attending but the filmmakers and their friends. Um, and so then we get into the theater, um, and they say, okay, someone announces it, thank you all for coming, we're gonna watch all these films, and then after we're gonna do a Q&A, which you remember, like I think we saw a shorts fest together, right? And then we
Yeah, yeah.
stayed we stayed for the Q&A.
There's the late night shorts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Fun night. I remember
Yeah.
drinking a few brewskis,
Yeah.
and exchanging some conversation beforehand
Yes,
before we
definitely.
watched all these unknown films and watched these filmmakers talk about it. Um,
Yes.
and for some reason, uh, like because of I think the headspace I was in, and also just because I did not expect this, I heard Q&A, and I'm like be immediately become filled with dread for the
Fuck. Yeah.
entire film festival, for the entire like shorts fest. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do that. Um, and not to say I am someone who obviously loves to talk, and I like attention, and I also have I've always dreamed of like being interviewed You know, like
Right?
that
Yeah.
the stereotype of like Luke, what was your creative process of
Where do
making
you get your ideas from?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, you know, Jack Daniels. Like but yeah, I always like think of that. I'm like, oh man, imagine if I was interviewed by Charlie Rose or Joe Rogan or Jimmy Fallon, some of the great
The
interviewers of
greats.
our
Yeah.
yeah. Howard Stern, Mark Maron, whatever. But I've had those like fantasies, right? And so here I am. I'm finally going to be asked questions about something. And I'm like, I do not want to do that at all. Um, and I'm like watching the shorts and I'm like, am I really supposed to like get up and do it? Right? Like I didn't direct it. I just like co-wrote it. Am I really supposed to get up? And I'm thinking like it'd be probably kind of really weird if you didn't go up because you had a part in it. And so we watch all the shorts in succession, and then at the end we go up for the Q&A, and we all line up in a line. And there's this girl who's like moderating it, and there's probably like only 20 people in the audience, like the friends of who came with. There's like nobody there. And I'm still just like I'm like filled with anxiety, and I also just am really uncomfortable on top of that because it's just the weirdest vibe ever. So yeah, like I get what the film festivals are trying to do. They want to like acknowledge you and like they're saying that we're appreciating indie film or small filmmakers
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. Indie film, small filmmakers, amateur filmmaker, whatever. But it just feels phony. A big fat phony. What's that from again?
Big fat phony.
A big fat phony.
I
It's like
feel
sounds like
that's
Nickelodeon or something, right?
yeah, yeah, maybe like what Drake and Josh or
Or
Amanda
SpongeBob
show
or
or
some
some
shit.
SpongeBob. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe yeah, maybe that.
But they say that, they talk about like imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
I I not only individually felt imposter syndrome, I felt the whole event is just like fake, just
Yeah.
yeah, imposter thing. And as well with all the filmmakers there and like uh and this girl like who's moderated it, I'm like so surprised because she was like taking it really seriously and she had like questions prepared about everybody's film. And she's like, I really like the way you guys did this and showed this. And I'm like, how did you even do this for all these films? Like, you
Yeah.
actually watched all these films that hard, you know?
Yeah. She took it
Um,
really serious, probably
yeah, she
more
took it
seriously than you guys did.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. She took it seriously. And of course, during the Q&A, there's like all these people who have a lot to say when they're like being interviewed. And I'm just like, I think the big thing to do here is just say the bare minimum and like be just yeah, that's
Keep it
what I thought.
simple.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not the time to like you know say more than like have even a full paragraph of something to say about this. And my friends kind of did the same, like especially like my friend like Ian, and who I know, you know Ian put like his like put everything into this project, and but he's still up there like not saying a lot, and I could tell he felt weird about it too. Um so the Q&A ends, and as we get off the stage or whatever you want to call it, like immediately get approached by two people, like a couple of people. One's just this random guy, I don't know, and then the other is like a filmmaker, actor guy just trying to network with
Mm.
everybody. And he first like networks with my friend Antonio, and then when like Antonio tells him, "Hey, yeah, so I gotta go to the bathroom," he comes up to me immediately after that, and he's like complimenting it, and it made me feel very uncomfortable that he's so eager to compliment the film, and then he hands me a flyer for his film. It says it's playing like in a couple days. And I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, like definitely try to see that when I'm not coming back to this film festival. I'm just like it's downtown. I'm not going all the way down there just to, you know, uh I only came for to see the thing I did.
Yeah, right,
And
yeah.
right? And then I see him later by the red carpet and he's like doing the same thing with other people. Like, hey, do you want to exchange Instagrams? Like the whole thing, like, following others on Instagram. I'm never going to hear from that, which is a very normal thing in the film industry where I've been on film sets or PA gigs or just some networking thing where everyone's just like, they don't even like introduce each other. They don't even try to talk or find some common ground or see if they're a fit for each other. They just like immediately hand each other their phones and act like we're doing something because of it. Like that's going to get us somewhere. It's like, no, you're going to forget about the person immediately.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It,
then we go to the
yeah.
red carpet after that, and we're like waiting in line to to get our pictures taken. And there's all these like girls who made this one film who are super dressed up and they're like taking pictures together. Um, and we're just like, yeah, this is the weirdest thing. And we got out of there and we were like, that was really weird. And then we went and had drinks and talked about it. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. That was probably the best part was like debriefing
The
afterwards,
best
getting
part
drinks.
was like, getting really drunk to forget about
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and
And talking shit about it.
and
Yeah.
forget about my whole existence.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow,
overall,
yeah.
like it was a really like kind of special thing because like just to be like as a team kind of like share it and be like, you know, recognize that we all had a part in it and it was kind of a milestone for each of us individually and it was cool. But just the film festival itself was really weird.
Yeah. It is
Yeah.
it's a yeah, no, it's a really cool thing to like get to be a part of. And then it seems like once you're there and in it, then it's like yeah, you feel like everyone's just like trying really hard to play it up to make it seem like this really important thing instead of just being like, hey, yeah, so
Yeah.
we're here to just like, celebrate some like independent filmmakers and stuff. And
Yeah.
but it's like, no, this is it's just trying to make a spectacle out of it. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like before doing this, when I never had a project of my own in there, it wasn't even like I was like, oh, I really wish I had my project at this festival, like where I really respected the forum of it, I guess. And like I remember maybe being at the Denver Film Festival with you and we're watching the Short Fest, and I'm like, who the fuck are all these people? And now I was part of that group where you're like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Um, and I remember I volunteered at the Chicago Film Festival. So I'm like one of those people who's like checking tickets or whatever, giving them the brochure while they walk in. Um, and I'm hanging out with the volunteers and and I was like, they're like, hey, so you can during the festival if you want, like once we get everyone in, you can go sneak in and watch some of it for free since you're, working for free. Like, ooh, big privilege, right? And I went in and watched some of it and I got out and the guy who's there, he was kind of a big volunteer, you could tell, because he was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm making sure to sign up for Sundance whenever that opens up." And I'm like, he's the a guy who just signs up for film festivals and goes off and
He's a
wherever
lifer.
yeah, that's what he
Yeah.
does. And I told him that after I watched the films, he was like, he asked me like a genuine questions. He a genuine question. He was like, so what did you really think about what you saw while you were in there? Like, what did you think about it? And I remember just like kind of looking at him and I was like, dude, what are you kidding? I don't give a fuck about any of these films. Like, and I'm like volunteering there, and I'm like, but I was like looking at, I'm like, dude, you really give a fuck about these films? And so I've never really cared about a lot of these like random festivals. You know, I've always thought they were kind of like a strange thing um to exist. And
hmm
yeah, I mean, they need to because like the
Yeah.
film industry is a shit show, and whatnot. But they're kind of sad in a way, you know, like and I think the only reason in a way these little festivals that aren't Sundance Cannes or TIFF or Austin, what is it called again? The
South by
big Texas
Southwest.
South by Southwest. If you're not that, um, I feel like they only exist to give little filmmakers like a milestone because a lot of
Yeah.
them do go like, oh, hey, like, you know, if you're an industry person who's not successful, they will be like, hey, congratulations on being in on the festival, blah, 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 because it is so hard of a industry. And you know, it's like a band that like got to play at this dive bar. You know, it's like those little like things that you get or something like that. But so you kind of sometimes need that little thing maybe just to get you, you know, in the long haul to be like, oh yeah, I got into the film festival. But yeah, I think like my friends and I had a healthy level of we understand we're gonna like celebrate this and let ourselves enjoy this much, but not we're also gonna like be aware of the phony side to this. When I don't
Yeah.
think I would not say every filmmaker there was like that. I think
I believe it. Yeah.
yeah. And that's not to say all the shorts that I watched, like I did not really like I thought most of them were good. I thought I did not really I was kind of impressed by a couple of them too, and I wasn't like, you know, there to compete or down any of anybody else's work at all. I just thought like the whole thing as a whole was very head scratching. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's I'm glad you had that experience. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It does. Yeah. It does make me think of the Denver Film Festival and just going up to this last time going up to the media person getting to get my like media badge and everyone else who's like going up to get theirs is like, yeah, I'm with the Denver Post or I'm with this publication or this, whatever. And then I'm like, the Cinebums. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're like, what? And it's oh, Cinebum. I swear I got the email right here that we got passes or whatever. And then they look and then they just like immediately are like pulling a prank on us or something. Like they're yeah, it's like because they're taking things so seriously that I'm here to see this movie for free, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like for us film festivals, I kind of enjoy how they've become like this kind of funny meme for us that like we kind of like go to them to like talk about how weird the
Yeah.
experience is.
Yeah, we should yeah, we got to go to one together again
Yeah,
and
if we go to another one, that'd be cool. I'm down to
do
yeah, that'd be
a
cool.
recap on it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But then we can get some actual like footage of us there and being a part of it, you know, and include that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay,
Cool.
but
All
that's
right.
the LA Shorts Fest. Yeah, but still I'd like to thank them for their hospitality, and for
I'd love to go
honoring
again next year. Yeah.
and for honoring me and all the everything that I do.
Yeah. was well deserved. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
about time that they
Yeah, it's about
honored
as
you.
LeBron would say. It's about damn time.
It's about damn time. All right. Well, yeah,
You had COVID.
I finally got COVID after all these years now. I
Yeah.
never tested positive. I thought maybe, there's times where I had a little throat thing and I was like,
This is
maybe this
it.
is COVID.
Oh, oh.
It's the big one. Yeah, and
Yeah. I think you're so good at like methodically not leaving the place that that's maybe why.
yeah, I was able to stay away and it finally got to me with I think it was going around this summer. And yeah, and it hit me harder than I thought it would. I never got my second booster. Maybe I should have done that. But I thought since, I was way behind on COVID, everybody under the sun has gotten COVID now, at least once. And so I thought, what else have I been behind on in life? I feel like this is a good opportunity for me to catch up on all these, maybe some movies that I've been behind on.
Hmm.
So, I went on a movie bender, of course, a COVID movie bender to catch up on the movies I've missed out on. And so yeah, um, the first one I watched to sort of, catch up on, movies. These are movies that everyone's talking about all the time. When I say I haven't seen them, people are like, "What? You haven't seen this one, dude?" Like, what? And you have a movie podcast? You haven't seen this? It's these types of movies.
You're a loser.
Yeah, you're a phony, big fat phony. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You haven't seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You
yeah,
haven't seen what's that movie? Oh, the Heath Ledger movie in the
Brokeback Mountain.
90s. No, no,
Oh,
no,
10
no,
Things I
no.
Hate About You.
You haven't seen 10 Things I Hate About You. You
Yeah,
haven't seen The
exactly.
Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club, man. Yeah. And so the first one I watched, which I finally got to, everyone's been asking me. I finally saw Anaconda from
Uh,
uh from 1997. Not a day goes by where someone isn't asking me if I've finally seen Anaconda yet. And I finally have. And yeah, I gotta say it was not worth the wait, and I was not missing out on anything by not seeing Anaconda.
but funny movie. Funny movie. I mean,
Funny movie,
you
yeah.
got J-Lo, right? And
Yeah,
Ice
every
Cube.
everyone's in it. Yeah, it's J-Lo,
Yeah.
Ice Cube, Owen
Yeah.
Wilson,
Yeah.
some goofy ass guy that J-Lo would never be into, but for some
Yeah.
reason in this movie she's into, and
Yeah, yeah. It's one of
uh
those where it's if it's on TV, like the family would always jump into it on holidays. I'm like, oh, we gotta check out Anaconda, and it's like, it's one of those so bad it's good kind of things
yeah,
for
yeah, it's
me.
like the snake is just so ridiculous. And John Voight is in it too. He's like the villain who's putting on this very strange accent. Um, and
What kind of accent is it?
I can't remember. For some reason it's so like jarring when he speaks because they're like, "Whoa, why is he doing an accent? It might be like German or something."
Hmm.
Hang on, I gotta find this. Oh, he was Paraguayan.
Wow.
A Paraguayan snake hunter. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, he had like a weird kind of like Hispanic, like South American accent, but he's John Voight, like the whitest guy of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so strange. But yeah, I finally, this it's still a cultural movie, I had to see it's something that's in our American culture. Um, and yeah, so I saw Anaconda finally.
Yeah. I'm sure
Uh,
also like the state that COVID puts you in, I don't know, it's like something like that isn't going to be very engrossing.
yes,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I've had COVID a couple times, maybe even more, and I just didn't like get it tested or something. But like I know how it is, and like you got to watch things that are going to keep you in it. You can't just I think I watched I tried I watched what's that really famous movie? Gone with the Wind. I watched
Oh
my first
God.
time I had COVID.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been a so bad of a choice.
Yeah, yeah. I try to stick with uh like short movies too, things that weren't as
Yeah. Well, it helps if they're
big
like
commitments.
entertaining or if they're like you've seen them before is like I think that's a good thing to do when you have COVID because it's also like it's lonely when you have COVID. I don't know if Carly had COVID too, but you're like
She didn't actually, yeah,
that's
which is
amazing.
wild. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
did you isolate from her?
Yeah, we slept in different rooms and
Yeah. So you guys,
I was like coughing like crazy. I had a just for like a couple of days I had a fever, but besides that, yeah, just like
yeah.
yeah,
For me, the
coughing
hardest
and
part is like the isolation and the
mhm.
boredom. And so like you got to find things that are gonna to deal with that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And well, yeah, so I tried to catch up, it gave me like an objective to have, is to catch up on some of these movies. Another one uh I watched was Muppets from Space. Again, another one. Everyone is like, when is John gonna see Muppets from Space? And I finally saw it, and I gotta say it's also one of the lesser uh, you know, Muppet movies in the Muppet cinematic universe. It's one of the lesser ones. I didn't need to see it, but through COVID, I got to see it. It's the Muppets are another important part of American culture, it's
Yeah.
trying to stay on top of that. And then I just got two more. Is one is this was a big one for Carly, but I had not seen High School Musical ever. And
Wow. I can't believe that.
yeah, yeah. And that one I felt like I just knew everything about it because
You've seen
I
people like make fun of it.
heard the song, I'd seen all the, yeah, jokes about it and yeah, I just feel like I knew it because it was so big when we were growing up. But yeah, I still didn't really understand anything about it other than I knew about the basketball song and
I think
um
I think John that like you didn't grow up with it and then that you can't rewatch it from having grown up with it. You're like
mhm.
missing out on that part of it cuz
Yeah.
if you grew up with it, rewatching it is like such a time. It's such a time. It'll like you'll feel all sorts of ways about it.
Uh-huh.
Um yeah, and me and my siblings have a we've had a lot of fun times like rewatching High School Musical and stuff like that. And we're just we don't laugh harder than that.
That sounds nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I never saw it, and so seeing it for the first time now, I'm like, oh, I was really not into it, and and was so
Yeah.
ready for it to be over. Yeah,
I
but
remember
yeah.
it was like Jake had his like birthday party. I was maybe like in seventh grade or sixth grade, and his birthday party was at a place called like did you ever know about Safari Land?
I think I've driven by there. I've seen
Yeah, there was all
commercials
those
for it, but
like
yeah,
places people would have birthdays, right? There was like
yeah.
Enchanted Castle.
Enchanted
There was
Castle.
like that, which
There's a place called Jeepers for a
yeah,
while.
Jeepers. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of people had birthdays there. There's places that like only existed for like birthdays, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Like they were like Chuck E. Cheese knockoffs in a way,
yeah,
but like
exactly.
maybe bigger. They had rides and stuff like that. There was Safari Land, which Jake once had his birthday there, and I remember I had a friend like was there to hang out with me while we were at Jake's birthday, and my parents are like managing the birthday party, handling all of the I don't know, there's all these rowdy kids, basically. And my friend was very insistent on that we get back in time to watch the premiere of High School Musical. And um, I think even as insistent as like my parents knew I think he was even telling my parents who are handling this birthday party for Jake and have enough on their plate probably as it
Yeah.
is. You know, responsible for the survival of all of us. And my friend still was like, "Yeah, we need to get back in time to your guy's house."
Inviting himself over
Invited
to
himself, yeah, yeah, because I don't think he had he came from he was one of those families who they didn't have cable, which at the time was
yeah.
still a thing. And we went back. I didn't know what was happening with this High School Musical, but I remember went back, we watched High School Musical, and something opened up in me from watching that movie at the time. Mainly I recall being like really in love with Vanessa Hudgens at the time as a kid.
Yeah,
I think that's like
I
a
could see that. She was like she's like the new girl or whatever, right? So it's like she's kind of
yeah.
innocent and sweet and yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
she
yeah.
was huge after that. I remember that. Yeah.
I think that's like a big draw of it. It's like say all these kids had crushes on all the people in it.
Zac Efron and
Yeah,
Corbin Blue. Yeah,
right. Which I don't I don't think like you're walking out of it and you're like to your wife, I really like Sharpay and
Yeah, I know. I felt kind of gross after it. I was like,
yeah, exactly. It's
I
a little
should not be
different.
watching this right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're watching it probably alone, then
No, we watched
you watch it
together,
together. Yeah.
But she was also kind of dreading having me watch it for the first time, as a 30-year-old with because she felt like I was just gonna hate it. And it was like a
Yeah.
big part of her childhood.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Yeah, you got to watch it with people who are like it's part of their childhood and your childhood, and if you didn't experience it as a child, yeah, there's really no reason to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And also there's like a whole trilogy to it too, so you can watch the
Yeah.
second and the third, which sometimes we do. And then like my brother Jake will always be like, "No, let's not watch the sequels because they're unbearable." But I get a kick out of the sequels as well.
Carly said she thinks the second one is more entertaining than the first, but I don't
It's
know if I
like
can get
it's
myself.
pretty awful. Yeah, it's pretty awful. Like they all start working at a like a golf club for the summer. And they're like, "Guys,
Oh yeah.
this is our summer." That's like the
There's that
whole
what's that big song? They had like a really popular, well, obviously all the songs were, but there's like some song about summer or something.
yeah, yeah. And also what's cringe about the music as like a lot of this is coming back to me is there's so many numbers where like they incorporate the sound of a high school band into it. Like where they're like they've got these like high school chants and then you hear the band music so that there's this school spirit thing all going
Yeah.
on. And
East
then
High. Yeah.
they're like East High and they're always like Wildcats. We're Wildcats. It's like the most cringe shit in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The song I was thinking of is What Time Is It? It's like, what time is it?
what
The time
time
of
is
our
it? Time
lives.
of our lives. And then they
It's
go, it's our vacation. And then they go,
Vacation. Yes, that's
it's
yeah.
and then the next part's like, it's hesitation.
What? It's hesitation. Yeah.
Or
Um,
anticipation. It's one of those.
Anticipation. Yeah,
That
yeah.
probably makes more sense than
Yeah, maybe.
hesitation.
It's the time of our lives, but I'm hesitant about it. Yeah.
And also there's so much like there's like a lot of like white privilege shit in it where like especially in the second one as it's coming back.
Well, yeah, well, anyway, so High School Musical was on that COVID movie bender too, and yeah, and the last one I'll say too, which is also kind of like a high school era, middle school, high school era for us that I never saw. I've seen some of the sequels, maybe one, but Paranormal Activity. Um,
Okay. Those are
yeah,
fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And I remember like that being a huge deal at the time. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's kind of funny to see it now, but like picturing like being a teenager and seeing that for the first time in 2008 or whatever. And yeah, that would be um yeah, I could see myself being like really into something like that. Uh,
yeah. I remember watching
yeah,
all of them with a friend of mine one time in one like a sitting, and I just couldn't like. I was also in like a very big film snob, uh, you know,
phase
era,
era,
yeah,
yeah.
phase, and I just was watching them and like I think like I remember being I was always engrossed. I was really watching it constantly. They're kind of good in that way. But I remember just like being so pissed off because nothing really ever happens in any of them if you really think about it.
Yeah.
And they're all just like these suspense tools. And I remember like hating that about it. Like I was like, this is bad cinema craft or some shit. And um, yeah.
Yeah. There's those moments where it's like so drawn out that it's like, oh, something's about to happen here. And then nothing
Yeah,
happens. Yeah,
yeah.
and then
It really
um
baits you like that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the way they stage the cameras and stuff kind of there's something like that draws you into that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just any like anything happening, like a little light flickering, you're like, oh, oh,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
the door just like slightly moving and
Yeah.
or just the door shutting in general. Like that's just like that's like a big scene, I feel like when the door shuts on its own.
Yeah. That's
But it's
like
also like, yeah,
we
so
built up
what?
to
You know,
that for the past hours, the door
yeah.
shutting.
Yeah, it's not that big of like a big of a moment, but it's like made to be. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the at the same time I like the subtlety of it, and the DIY small scale feel. Like it's yeah, it felt
Yeah.
like just some like independent movie that really blew up. Um, which is cool. Yeah. I think it was like the most profitable movie ever made because the budget was so small and then
Right, right.
yeah, so I think that is like kind of a cool aspect about it though too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh yeah, so that was my COVID movie bender, catching up on
Cool.
things that I missed out on.
Cool. So
Um
we're gonna save my bender for another episode, because my benders are long. We all know
oh
they can
yeah.
go on and on for days and weeks and months, and until like some family member gets together, like a group of people, to you know tell me that I need to get it together, and they
Intervention, yeah.
they crowdfund the money to get me into a clinic and stuff like that. So we'll get into that another time, but. I will say, just to touch on a little part of my bender is something I wanted to bring up today is that I rewatched Back to the Future 2 and 3. And I just want to like give out a little love to the today to the Back to the Future trilogy. As that is a not underrated trilogy at all. I think those films are all universally beloved and praised, and everyone I think, it's like not only your mom and dad's favorite movie, but it's also your favorite movie,
Yeah.
right? But like goddamn, like I can't think of a outside of Lord of the Rings, I don't think there is a better trilogy out there. And we all know how great the first film is. It's one of the best films there is, but I recently rewatched the second and the third, and which I don't watch as often. And the second one is just it's loads of fun. It's kind of like brilliantly constructed. And it's also like kind of comedic gold. I'm not saying it's like a perfect movie, but it's really not but it's also like much funnier than any of them. So I would like there's just so much brilliant stuff about it. And I think it's inspired a lot of things from, say, like The Simpsons or a lot of the like multiverse Rick and Morty stuff that everyone got into starts with Back to the Future Part 2. And so I think it's like
Interesting, yeah.
a brilliant film alone just for that. Yeah, I think a lot of people consider Back to the Future Part 3 is where the franchise sort of falls off a bit. But I kind of on rewatch just kind of realized that that's really not true and that it is a good movie. And I don't think it's a drop off in quality in any way. And I think it's actually an interesting way of wrapping up the franchise that it's kind of this contained Western homage. And I like the way it ends. And it's very much like Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis being like, oh, we want to do like a fun homage to the Western. And yeah, I like it for that. So yeah, just a quick shout out to the Back to the Future franchise. If you haven't seen them, you didn't have a childhood, and there's some of the best films that are ever. So check them out.
Yeah, that's making me want to rewatch them. I haven't watched those movies in years. Um, but yeah, those are always crowd pleasers, you know? You can't
Yeah.
go wrong with those. Everyone likes them. Yeah.
Well, speaking of things being late on it, I saw the movie Twister a month ago, and I'd like to talk about that. I don't know if John did. If you did, you see the movie Twister?
I've seen the original one. I have not seen the new.
Uh,
Isn't it Twisters? Isn't it?
oh, Twisters. Sorry, Twisters. Well, John, I'll say you're missing out on Twisters, sort
Oh
of.
man.
I know.
I've been just kicking myself and not getting to Twisters yet.
Yeah, yeah, you should see it. But
Yeah.
I will say Twisters was good, but I'll say I was a little disappointed because
Oh,
it wasn't what I expected exactly. I thought because I thought Twisters was actually people are gonna think I'm, like a little stupid for thinking this, but I actually thought that Twisters was going to be kind of like a 1950s dance movie.
yeah, it's the Chubby Checker biopic, right?
I don't
That's
even
what
know
I
who
thought it
that is.
was. He
Well,
he did
like
the twist, you know?
yeah, exactly. Like,
Come on, baby.
yeah, like
Let's do
Twisted
the
Shout
twist.
by the
Yeah.
Beatles and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and the like people in the 50s, they used to instead of hanging out in front of 7-Eleven like which we did as a kid or um you know, hanging out on Fortnite, which is what they do now, people used to get in diners and do the twist, kind of like in Back to the
Yeah.
Future. That's what that's the place. They order a Pepsi free, and they do the twist and
Go
on
down
the
to the soda fountain and
yeah,
do the
and
twist. Yeah.
and they go on the jukebox and they do the twist. That's what the 50s was about. And I love that time of America that I didn't get to experience. And I wish I got to experience that. So I thought that's what this movie was paying homage to because they get Glenn Powell, big movie star, and I was looking forward to see him doing some twisting on the big screen. And I kind of thought it would be like Pulp Fiction, Jackrabbit Slims for, Travolta and Mia Wallace dancing, the twist. But I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
nothing but that, the whole movie. I was like, okay, finally Hollywood has figured out what we want. Um,
Yeah.
right? Or Spider-Man 3, the omelet scene between James Franco
Yeah.
and Kirsten Dunst, the another very iconic twist scene. Um, maybe probably like some of the top two twist moments in cinema if we're really, getting down to brass tacks or however you say it. So I was, and I know that there was not one like dance scene in the trailers. I we all saw the trailers. It's just storm stuff in the trailers, but
Huh.
I thought they were saving it for the movie. That's what I thought. And I was really
Yeah, right.
disappointed to find there's not one twist scene in the whole movie. And you know, I was really disappointed after I got out and had to say was really craving a an Allagash White when I got out of the theater to make up for the emptiness I felt from not getting the movie that I wanted.
Wow. Yeah, that's strange. I mean, you would think, yeah, the trailers, they're not going to show the twisting and stuff because you don't want to give everything away. Then they just forget to include those in the movie. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds like
maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just forgot
maybe
about it.
it's on the cutting room floor and they're like, ah, we left all this film on the
It's too
floor.
late. The film all rolled up
Oh
together.
no. They're like trying
Yeah,
to untangle it and yeah, it's
perhaps in the director's cut, we will be able to see the twisting, I'm hoping, or
yeah,
deleted
release the
scenes.
Twisters director's cut.
It's
Yeah.
the only reason I plan to buy the I plan to buy the DVD.
Yeah, maybe there's a director's commentary too, where, if it was intentional, you could, explain the reasons for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, why you can't call your movie Twisters? Then,
yeah.
might as well just call it Storms or, the
Exactly. That's what I
Weather
that to me
Channel,
is a more appropriate title. Um, but I also did this, I Googled after this, and that twisters are actually what people tend to call like in these dust bowl areas, they kind of call tornadoes twisters. So maybe if I had had
Mm.
that knowledge prior, I would have been able to associate the meaning of twister to something other than the great American pastime that I is that's how I think about it. Um,
Wow, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they
and
should have almost given out pamphlets when you're walking into the theater to give you that information
yeah, yeah, yeah.
ahead of time. Yeah.
And also I'll say this, I watched the original version. Um the original Twister I watched too, and that has no dance stuff in it either. Um so I think
Hmm.
this whole franchise is a little head scratching for me. Uh and I don't get why people are going to see it when they are kind of mismarketing themselves. Because
Yeah.
I don't I think I'm much more interested in this dance stuff than the storm chasing part of it.
Wow. Yeah.
Or at least if
That's
they could throw in both.
it seems like they shot themselves in the foot with this. I think the most important part of a movie is its title. But if you
Yeah,
are going to have a title that is, um, not
misleading.
accurate, misleading, yeah, then that's just you're just shooting yourselves in the foot for a poorly marketed film.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, I think this was my most anticipated movie of the summer, and it ended up being my biggest disappointment of the
Oof.
summer. And I like I said earlier in the episode, I opened up to John about a lot of personal things before this. And I would say, even with all that going on, and I have going on in my life, the biggest disappointment was still the lack of twisting in Twister. Um,
Wow. It's
yeah,
really brave of you to share that, Luke. To that your personal disappointment with
right.
Twisters, you
Because
know.
sometimes, we all gotta like twist in this life and play some old like, uh, you know, uh, like Little Richard or
Yeah.
you know, uh, um,
Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry, right? And while you're cooking up some eggs in the morning, I'm sure you do this with your wife often, John. I do this now, you know, by myself in my the guest house that I rent out. But I start my day and I get that dopamine up and I do some twisting to the music that America was born on and the dance that we were born on. And I like I watched that Pulp Fiction scene with Travolta doing the twist on heroin over and over again. And uh, I couldn't think of a more fun night than to go to Jackrabbit Slim's and uh, high on heroin and cocaine as uh, Uma Thurman is in that movie and do the twist after having a steak and a burger and a $5 milkshake, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better. There's nothing that says America more than that, you know.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah. I think we're missing that right now. And
Yeah, yeah.
all we needed this summer was some twisting, and it sounds like they failed to deliver on that promise. So, yeah. Wow, it's a very heavy way to sort of get to towards the end of our episode here today.
Yeah, I hope everyone's brain is officially numbed from that. That whole thread, because mine sure I felt mine like 5 minutes in, I'm like, holy shit, I could feel the like brain numbing begin. Not even 5 minutes in, like a minute in.
Ah, man. Well, yeah, just everybody should just do a twist. Do some twisting out there to
Yeah.
make up
I
for it.
actually used to follow this Instagram page. It was called like it was about like Harry Osborn and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And this person would post like, "Hey, it's Twisty Tuesday." And
Oh God.
he would post like James Franco and Kirsten Dunst like doing the like twist in Spider-Man 3. And I was like, wow, this like I'm probably one of the few people that follows this and is actually getting something out of it. I guess to close off today, before we get into the poem of the week, which of course I wrote another one. I wanted talk to John about this. I rewatched Richard Linklater's Boyhood, which is a great film. If you haven't rewatched it or seen it, I would recommend it. It has a lot of value in it. And there's this one part of it that I specifically thought of John because
Wow.
there's a moment where it's the boy of Boyhood's 16th birthday, and Ethan Hawke plays the boy's dad, and he's like taking him out for his birthday, and he gets him a present, and the present he gets him is a CD that he calls the Black Album, and it's essentially a CD where Ethan Hawke took all of the Beatles solo stuff and kind of puts it together in one album. So he's like kind of bringing the Beatles back together. So he's like, look at what I did here, man. You got Band on the Run, Paul McCartney starting us off, and then you got George coming in and talking about God, and then you got John Lennon coming in and talking about love, and he's just talking about, and the real point of it is that it's the Beatles if you listen to it together, and that the Beatle and like, and then the kid he says like in the middle of this rant, he's like, I always just thought Paul was the best. And then he's like, no, that's not the point about who's the best. The point is that them together were the best, you know?
Dang,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's worth rewatching the 3 hour Boyhood movie just for this moment there.
Nice. I actually another movie I am behind on is Boyhood. I have not seen Boyhood. Uh
It's good. It's good. Like a lot of people, I think, like have problems with it or say it's too long or stuff. I think it's a very amazing film.
cool. Yeah, it's a cool concept. I know that it's like actually made over the course of what, 18
Right.
years,
The
right?
way he's filming it
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
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 A lot of value in it,
Cool. Nice.
including that, the Black Album.
The
And
Black
it
Album. That's a
it made
yeah.
me want to like, I'm like, oh dude, I wish I had the Black Album myself.
Yeah.
Which Which brings me to another question before we get into our poem of the day and close us off. I guess, I don't know, John, do you have a favorite Beatles solo like album or a favorite Beatles solo career after they broke off and do their own thing?
It's a good question.
Like who won after the Beatles broke up to you?
So I think, for a while I thought George had my favorite solo career afterwards, and I liked his music. All Things Must Pass.
Yeah,
That that album, I think, like cemented like, oh yeah, it's for sure my favorite solo Beatles album, and George had the best solo career. But honestly, in the past year, I've become an Paul guy. I'm
yeah,
getting much more into Paul, and I feel like he definitively, in my mind, had the best career, like with Wings and his
yeah,
other solo stuff.
right.
Uh, do you ever listen to McCartney 2, that album?
Um, not as much as just McCartney.
I love McCartney 2, and
Yeah,
there's some really like kind of odd songs on there that sound almost like they're like Super Nintendo video game type of music
right.
or
Well,
whatever.
he was very
Um,
forward thinking with the sound, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think McCartney 2 is just like well, I think that my favorite Beatles solo albums, even though Wings is technically a band, but like Band on the Run and All Things Must Pass, I think are like top
yeah,
tier. But
yeah,
then I also love George Harrison, Living in the Material World, and
yeah.
McCartney too.
Yeah, I
Those are
need
probably
to
my other
you're
ones.
I'm
Yeah.
really gonna listen to McCartney too today now because you got me thinking about it. Because
Yeah.
I listen to McCartney a lot because it
Hmm.
has like a lot of the joints and like I
That's
think that
good too.
album
Yeah.
alone is just so amazing. Where it's like, maybe I'm amazed at the way that you never loved me and you really understand. Yeah, like I think yeah, I agree. I think McCartney easily had the best solo career.
Yeah.
Um just because he was the most like self-motivated one, pretty
Yeah.
much. Just like he was just really into churning out projects, and the other
Yeah.
two were such like hippies in comparison. So
Feel like he was just like hyper creative too, like always doing
yeah,
something like, yeah, different, not just um yeah, I think he just clearly loves to uh yeah, I don't know, make music and do
yeah,
interesting things. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, yeah, I agree. And like yeah, I just think it's like a fun question because like I don't know, sometimes you expect people to say I don't know, man, I don't know, be contrarians maybe and be like, oh, definitely like John Lennon because of all the amazing like he wrote such like important songs or something. You know what I mean? It's like you know, I think
Imagine, and
yeah, there's
like
so
you
many
always hear
important
Imagine so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
you do. You do. You hear a lot of them too
That's
much.
like the like in one, like that and Hallelujah are like the emotional
Yeah.
songs
But that one
of
song by
culture.
Lennon, Isolation, is just phenomenal. Just an
That's great. Yeah.
amazing song. I think it was in that like trailer for Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, the Gus Van
Oh,
Sant, Joaquin, and like the trailers cut really well, and that song just it just bangs. It's kind of like the way that Bowie song does for Licorice Pizza. I'd kind of put
yes.
those
Yeah.
two on the same yeah.
Yeah. Plastic Ono Band is a great album too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I definitely have found myself, yeah, really drawn to Paul stuff lately though. But
Yeah, I've
yeah.
always like I think I've always been honestly like I like prefer Paul the most if I had to pick one of the guys that are
Mhm.
all geniuses and amazing in their own individual way just because I think Paul's just incredible.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and you know like like and he had a hand in every Beatles joint. You know what I mean? Like where he's like
Yeah.
really in he's always in the mix, and
Hmm.
even if it's like John's song, you hear Paul like like singing up an octave that because John can't,
Yeah, yeah,
to add his own, to add the other layer to it. And yeah, and just like the sense of humor that he also had with John Lennon, you know what I mean, was what like
yeah,
made them the perfect duo. Even though he's like maybe more motivated and more selfish than the other two, you could argue, he's like also had like a great sense of humor and really was just a very kind of hyperactive collaborator, you know.
yeah, yeah. And you see it in like in Get Back
What's that
too. Like it's
documentary
like
again that
yeah,
like
that we
where we're
talk about
referencing all
nonstop.
this stuff,
Yeah.
that we have all our knowledge base?
Yeah. But it's like he's clearly like the end. Well, I mean, at least in this time period that they show, like he's clearly like the engine, like the only thing he's keeping the Beatles going
Yeah,
and
he is.
making sure that it's a thing because the other
Right.
guys aren't going to really put in that
Yeah.
effort or energy that way
In
he
like kind of
is.
an annoying way, like because we're to where
Yeah.
he's like annoying George, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But you
you
kind of
know,
need that too, and
well, yeah, the
yeah.
album wasn't gonna probably get done otherwise, and like, and it's also I think like why he's the first one who left because he like felt like he's the guy who's pushing it,
Hmm.
pushing it through, and he's like annoyed by these other guys who are sitting there like, I think we should play it this way and makes it harder.
Yeah. Just tell me what you want me to do and I'll play it,
Yeah.
Whatever it is that pleases you, I'll
Yeah,
do
whatever will
it.
please you, I'll do it.
And then George is like, let's just get Bob Dylan to play or Eric Clapton to be in the
Yeah,
band,
yeah.
let's
And
just
then when
do
he
that.
leaves, like Lennon's like, I guess if we doesn't cut, we get Clapton.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
funny. They're just like, yeah, all right, we'll just get somebody else to do it then. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of the lifelong guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, an endless good conversation, the
Yeah.
Beatles.
Oh yeah, we could keep going for days.
But yeah, I mean, I guess we gotta wrap it up and end it on that because John has like business in Denver, loose ends to tie up.
Yeah.
Um, but I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Sincerely. Um,
Yeah. I do too. I do too. I really hope you did enjoy it. I didn't want you to think that I didn't care.
I don't really care if you all enjoyed the show or not. Next episode, we'll have a movie bender and uh, poems as well. I mean, I guess just to close this off, John, since I didn't get to do a poem today, like who are your top three poets, just so everyone knows? Like,
Yeah. I was thinking a lot about this since you talked about your top three last time, and yeah, I was just sort of racking my brain for who would be in my top three. And I think I'd have to go, and hopefully these aren't too obvious of choices, but I think I would probably go one Steve Harvey. I think he's always moved me with his words and how he speaks.
yeah.
So he'd be one. I think two would be Jared Leto. I think
Oh
him
man.
too. He's sort of a Renaissance man,
Like Dallas
he's
Buyers Club, the poetry
yeah.
of playing a trans person.
I think he really is he's the physical embodiment of poetry. And so I think he would be up there too. And for the last one, I would probably Andrew Dice Clay. I think
Oh, there we go.
I
A
really
good
think
one.
that yeah. He represents you know the poetry of the everyman, of
Yeah.
guys like me.
Forget
Uh,
about
Forget about it, man. He just speaks to me, and I think those would be my
it.
top three: Harvey, Dice Clay, and whoever I said second, who I can't think of right now.
Oh,
I don't even remember. I
I
said
don't
it a
remember
minute
either.
ago. I don't even remember who I said.
I don't remember. It must have been not that good of
Jared Leto. That was
Jared
my
Leto.
other
Yeah,
one.
that's why
Yeah,
we
Steve
forgot.
Harvey, Leto, Dice Clay. Those are
That's
my
a good one,
guys.
man. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah. So yeah, and I just need to thank Luke for bringing poetry to uh back to life in this podcast. So yeah, yeah,
It's what I fight for every day. I'll tell you what, we all
yeah,
need a little poetry
yeah. Fighting the
in
good
this,
fight.
yeah, in this very corporate, consumerist, you know, anti the Beatles get back society that we live in. We all
Yeah,
need
we can't have that. Yeah.
poetry.